everyone, and welcome to the August 2023 edition of the Economist Intelligence Unit's Global Outlook video. My name is Agathe Demarais, and I'm the Global Forecasting Director at EIU. I'm joined today by Andrew Viteritti, our lead for commerce and regulation and US analyst based in Washington, D.C. And today we're going to discuss the upcoming presidential and congressional elections in the US in 2024. So, Andrew, I know it's very early stage, it's in a little over a year, but what are your initial expectations for the elections?
Well, again, it's too early to have a clear call on the final election results, but already at EIU, we've been identifying several factors that we believe will shape the run-up to the elections and their outcomes. We can start by looking at what's happening with the Democratic Party. It stands to benefit from a strong degree of party unity, particularly in its support of Joe Biden, the current president, who is seeking re-election in 2024. He'll face no real challenger for the party nomination. Democrats will also benefit from Biden's strong policy track record, including the passage of major bipartisan legislation in a difficult Congress. They'll also benefit from Biden's successful management of the US's pandemic recovery, and more recently from avoiding a deep US recession, at least so far. Now, the trajectory of the US economy will be a huge determinant of how the Democrats do in 2024. At EIU, we aren't forecasting a US recession, but if one were to happen before the elections, it could very well blow the Democrats' chances. The Democrats will also have to contend with Biden's low national approval ratings and persistent questions about what a post-Biden future for the Democratic Party is going to look like. Now, if we turn over to the Republicans, they're heavily divided by comparison, which will become even more visible during what's going to be a brutal primary with many candidates. The former Republican President Donald Trump remains a controversial figure, for example, owing to his many legal problems and election fraud claims. And while he's still the Republican frontrunner, there are doubts, including within the Republican Party, over whether he can win a national election. That creates an opportunity for a non-Trump Republican candidate to gain ground, but none has so far.
And before the elections are held in late 2024, what do they mean for political stability and policy in the US?
Well, Congress is sharply divided now, again, with Democrats and Republicans each controlling a House and Congress, and each doing so by very thin majorities. There's little scope for compromise in that kind of context, particularly since neither party will want to appear ceding ground to the other ahead of the high-stakes elections in 2024. Republicans will also have to contend with a sizable group of ultra-conservative lawmakers from their party in the House of Representatives, the lower house of Congress, and that's going to keep negotiations with Democrats very fraught, even on essential legislation like basic spending bills, which in turn raises the risk of future government shutdowns. Now, Biden won't be able to rely on this Congress for more legislative victories, which means he'll have to turn to executive action to implement his remaining policy agenda ahead of 2024. But the thing to note about that is that any policy changes that are made in that way would be vulnerable to court challenges or to being overturned by a future Republican administration. And that more broadly highlights the sharp swings that we could see in US policymaking in the next few years, depending on how the next elections go.
Thanks so much, Andrew, for your insights, and thanks to all of you for watching us today. See you next month. Goodbye.